Welcome to the Application Testing Suite video training series. This is a video recording of Application Testing Suite 12.3 new features and updates. My name is Carolyn Louie and I'm a Senior Product Manager for Application Testing Suite. This presentation covers new features and updates we have in Oracle Application Testing Suite Release 12.3. The video recording will run for approximately 36 minutes. In the first 10 minutes, we will talk about the new features for OpenScript for functional testing and general enhancements. In the next 5 minutes, we'll discuss the new features for OpenScript for load testing and Oracle load testing. In the remaining 21 minutes, we will discuss new features for Oracle Test Manager. We will begin with an overview of the new features for OpenScript for functional testing and general enhancements. OpenScript 12.3 introduced Chrome browser playback for web, ADF, and JDE functional test modules. In addition, there are many new enhancements to the script encryption feature, such as the ability to password protect sensitive script data, inputting different passwords for each script in an OLT scenario, command line arguments for script encryption, and saving passwords to an OLT or OTM database. Starting with 12.3, there will be an OpenScript-only installer downloadable from OTN. Oracle Flow Builder is a new feature that we've introduced in 12.3, which allows users to generate scripts based on keywords without recording against the application. The script can be created via web or Excel user interface. Oracle Flow Builder is shipped with 3,000 pre-built components and 200 pre-built script and flows. The first feature I want to introduce for 12.3 functional testing module is support for Chrome browser playback. Chrome browser playback is supported for web, ADF, and JDE functional test scripts on Windows machines. The playback is supported from OpenScript UI, command line, Oracle load testing, and Oracle Test Manager. Scripts must be recorded with IE or Firefox, and to playback in Chrome browser, go to OpenScript Preferences and configure playback for Chrome. In this example, I will playback a web functional testing script with Chrome browser. To do so, simply click on View, OpenScript Preferences, highlight Browsers under the General section, and select Chrome for playback. After clicking on Playback, it will launch the Chrome browser and playback the script. Another feature I want to introduce is enhancements to script encryption. In 12.3, users can now encrypt sensitive data in their scripts. A password is required for script playback, otherwise the sensitive data cannot be decrypted. The encryption password is stored in OpenScript process memory or in Oracle load testing or Oracle Test Manager database, but never in an external file, which makes the password secure. Users can configure a different password for each script instead of setting a global password in OpenScript, which was the case in releases prior to 12.3. As you can see in this screenshot, to set a password for encryption, click on the Tools menu, select Script Encryption, Encrypt, and then enter the password. When the script is opened again, user will be prompted to enter the script encryption password. Before the script is encrypted, if there are any password in the script itself, if you go to Java Code View, you will see that the password is not encrypted. After script encryption, you will see in Java Code View that the password has now been encrypted. If we go back to the same script that we just played back in Chrome and go to the Java Code View, you will see that the password is not currently encrypted. Now let's go to Tools, Script Encryption, Encrypt, and enter a password. You will see right away that the password within the script is now encrypted. And during playback, the decrypt function will decrypt the encrypted password so that the playback will succeed. This slide shows the API parameters that will be encrypted after an encryption password is set for the script. When re-encrypting a script, OpenScript will look for the literals wrapped in decrypt API and the decrypt function and re-encrypt them. Within Oracle load testing, when a password-protected script is added to the Build Scenarios tab in OLT, the Input Scripts Password dialog box will open and prompt the user to enter the password. User can store the script password to the OLT database, which will be linked to the current OLT logon account. If another user logs on with a different account, that user cannot access the script password. This means if the other user wants to add the same script to their scenario, they will have to enter the password for that script. Once a script password is stored in the database, the user will no longer need to enter the password for that script again in current and future scenarios. As mentioned previously, different passwords can be used for different scripts in the scenario. One thing to note is multiple rows are displayed in the Input Scripts Password dialog window only when user adds a script which has script assets and two or more of them are encrypted, or when user opens a saved scenario which includes multiple encrypted scripts. In this screenshot that we have here, we have an OLT scenario with 3 encrypted scripts. When the scenario was opened, user is prompted with the Input Scripts Password dialog window. The dialog window displays the 3 encrypted scripts and prompts the user to enter a password for each. There are a couple of checkboxes on this window which is worth mentioning. The first one is Apply to Others. If this checkbox is checked, OLT will apply the same password to the other scripts listed in the dialog window. The other checkbox is Store the correct passwords to database. If this is checked, OLT will store the script password to OLT database. The Validate button will check if the passwords entered are correct. If the password is not correct, then a wrong password message will appear. In cases when a new OLT scenario is being created, the user will only see one row in the Input Scripts Password dialog window. Let's go ahead and demonstrate the new script encryption feature. I will go ahead and build a new scenario with 3 encrypted scripts. And you will see that as I add each script, I am being prompted to enter the password. I will go ahead and save the scenario. Let's go ahead and log out of OLT and log back in and open that scenario. And here you will see that because there are 3 encrypted scripts within that OLT scenario, I am being prompted to enter the password for each script. And this is where I can use the checkbox to apply to others. If this is selected, then the same password will be used for the other remaining scripts within the scenario. Let's go ahead and click on the Validate button, and you'll see that a green check mark is displayed, meaning that the password is valid for all of the scripts. And this is also an opportunity where I can choose to store the password to database. After the password has been entered, the scenario will be open. From OTM, when a password-protected script is added, the correct password needs to be entered into the OpenScript password field, or else the script will not be added. This password is encrypted and stored in the OTM database for each script. During playback, OTM will retrieve the password, decrypt it, and then hand it over to the agent manager for further processing. There are a number of new command line interface arguments added in 12.3 to allow users to play back an encrypted script from the command line. Some examples are encrypt.password, encrypt.password.global, and encrypt.password.prompt. These command line arguments fulfill different needs. Please visit the OpenScript User's Guide section A.2.3 for more information. The Oracle Technology Network download site now includes a new zip file for installing the OpenScript application standalone. For Oracle load testing or Oracle Test Manager agent installation, please use the micro install or complete install zip file. The upgrade installation file will no longer be available. Therefore, please use the microinstall file for upgrading oats. In 12.3, we introduced Oracle Flow Builder, which is a keyword-driven test script generator, which generates scripts based on keywords. OpenScript for functional testing scripts can be created via the Web UI or Excel UI using pre-built components and flows shipped with Oracle Flow Builder. This is a separate download from ATS, and a dedicated training will be made available at the Oracle Learning Library. Here's an overview of the new features for OpenScript for load testing and Oracle load testing itself. OpenScript 12.3 introduced correlation library enhancements for Fusion ADF, Hyperion, and PeopleSoft load test modules. The Hyperion load testing module contains further enhancements such as error recovery settings for server response, new APIs for a more robust scripting experience, and new step group creator. Finally, there are additional enhancements to the command line execution for running load test scenarios. In 12.3, the OpenScript ADF correlation library is updated to provide a more reliable correlation of component IDs and attributes for variables from ADF-rich responses. As you can see from the screenshots, the 12.2 correlation rules are still in 12.3. In 12.3, there are two new correlation rules to provide a more reliable playback, and they are Set Context ID and New Window ID. Let's go ahead and take a look at the new correlation rules for Fusion ADF. Click on View, OpenScript Preferences, and go to Correlation section and highlight ADF Load. There are two new variables for parameters specific to ADF, and one of them is Set Context ID. If we select this variable and click on the Source tab, the regular expression pattern for the selected rule will be shown. This is the pattern that OpenScript will look for during recording. When it's detected, the correlation will be done automatically in the script. Similarly, for New Window ID, you can also highlight the rule and check out the rule, the source, and the target. In 12.3, there are a lot of new rules added to the Hyperion correlation library. In 12.2, there were 22 correlation rules, and in 12.3, there are 54 correlation rules for Hyperion. The reason for this is we have taken the feedback from our own Hyperion load testing team and made the correlation more robust and automated to ensure a smooth playback. You can check out the new Hyperion correlation rules by opening or creating a new Hyperion load test script and going to OpenScript Preferences to see the details. In 12.3, the OpenScript Preferences now has an Oracle Hyperion load test section to configure server error message handling. This was added because playback for Hyperion application is difficult to verify. For example, getting an HTTP error can mean the server is throwing an exception, and getting a status 200 doesn't mean that the script works at all. Usually this can be taken care of by adding custom verifications such as checking for some text in the server response, or adding global checks for some known errors. However, since these verifications are not generic and depend on specific Hyperion product or version, it is not possible to add a global check for the server error. Therefore, we have added a way for users to define how they want to handle server error messages, and this can be configured by going to View, OpenScript Preferences, Playback, Error Recovery section. Another enhancement we have made for the Hyperion module is we have added new APIs to encode and decode strings and validate server response. For example, the Hyperion.getAssignEncoder API can convert a line feed to an @ sign. Please refer to the OpenScript Programmer's Reference Guide for code examples. We have also enhanced the Hyperion load test module with new step group creators to provide an easier way to understand the script flow. This provides a more effective way to test the server and provides a more meaningful load test report. OpenScript now parses for 4 patterns during recording of a Hyperion application. The patterns are shown in this table. If one of these patterns are detected, OpenScript will create a step group with the title enclosed in the tags or API. In 12.3, the OpenScript PeopleSoft correlation library has also been updated to provide more automation and a more reliable playback. Similar to the Hyperion module, quite a few new correlation rules have been added. These rules help reduce scripting time by automatically correlating dynamic variables and DOM input so that the user does not have to. You can check out the new PeopleSoft correlation rules by opening or creating a new PeopleSoft load test script and going to OpenScript preferences to see the details. Another new feature we have for Oracle load testing is we have added enhancements to our support for running a load test from the command line. In 12.2 and previous releases, running a scenario from the command line is limited to starting and stopping the scenario. Starting with 12.3, in addition to starting and stopping a scenario from the command line, there are many more command line arguments that can be used to achieve different needs. For example, you can add an agent or agent group from the command line. You can also specify how you want to run the session, specify ramp-up settings, export or import a scenario, generate a session report, and many more. Please see Appendix C of the Oracle Load Testing User's Guide for more information and examples. Here is an overview of the new features for Oracle Test Manager, which is an area in 12.3 which contains a lot of enhancements. The Test Execution tab has been revamped to include exciting new features for executing test sets. Oracle Test Manager's Test tab right-click menu also has some minor changes and additions. In 12.3, we now automatically save changes made in the Run Manual Test window, so user will not accidentally click on Cancel and lose the entire result. In addition, we have provided a major enhancement to the Clone Project feature so that both the project data and structure is cloned. In 12.3's Test Execution tab, we have enhanced the UI to provide a more organized way to present the data. This is what the Test Execution tab looks like in 12.1 and 12.2. In 12.3, we now have a new section layout along with new options to execute a test set. The sections remain the same, however, there is a more distinguished look. In 12.2 and previous releases, when the test list became very long, user has to scroll down to the end of the list to see the run history section. Starting with 12.3, there is an expand and collapse button for each section, so it's easier to get to the section you need to get to quickly. Another obvious change is the test run status has been removed from the header section. This is because you can now create multiple test runs for a test set. Therefore, the test run status is tied to each run and not to the test set, so having the status in the header does not make sense anymore. Another change we have made is we renamed the execute test set link to create run. This is to accommodate the new feature of creating more than one test run per test set. Other enhancements include the ability to pull up a test run to view the owner and status for each test case. There are now buttons to launch a test run and set results for a test run. Also, there is a progress bar indicator in the run history section. In 12.3, you can now pause and resume a test set by pausing the test case, and we will talk more about this in later slides. OTM 12.3 allows you to create a test run for a test set by specifying run name and run parameters. The Create Test Set Run window is actually very similar to the Test Run Info window you see when you execute a test case from the Test tab. Here you specify a run name, which is by default the date and time. The run parameters configured by the OTM administrator will also be presented in this window to be completed by the user. After a test run is created, it is displayed in the test list section as a drop-down. The user can select which test set run to view by selecting that run from the drop-down. Creating a test run does not kick off any tests, which is different from 12.1 and 12.2. In 12.1 and 12.2, there is no concept of a test run. Therefore, after clicking on Execute Test Set, the run is started immediately. However, in 12.3, more than one test run can be created for a test set, which is a great way to represent different test cycles. One of the major enhancements we have in OTM 12.3 is both manual and automated test cases within a test run can now be individually executed from within a test set. You do this by clicking on the green arrow icon next to the individual test cases. If you want to run the automated test cases sequentially, then you can click on the Launch button, which will bring up the Test Set Run window. This window will display all of the test cases listed in the test set, However, manual test cases will be grayed out and only automated test cases will be enabled. The reason behind this is because the user needs to manually kick off a manual test case and enter the test results. Therefore, it is more streamlined to exclude manual test cases as part of an automated test launch. So in the Test Set Run window, user can select which automated test case to execute. After clicking on Run, these test cases will be executed in the order of which it is listed. A couple of things to note is test cases added after a test run has been created will not be included in the original test run. This is by design, so if you have created a test run and you want to add to the scope, you need to create a new test run. Also, just to note, if the requirement is to run automated test cases in parallel, this can be achieved by going to the Test tab and scheduling the test cases to run at the same time on different OTM agent servers. In 12.3, we have changed the way that test set run details and results are presented. In 12.1 and 12.2, clicking on the test run link under Run History section will display the result parameters and result details sections. In 12.3, this information is now presented in a pop-up window. The test set run summary is displayed in the header section for that particular test run, with the results for each test case displayed. Clicking on a manual test case will show the test step results under the Result Details section. And clicking on an automated test case will display the OpenScript result report under the Result Details section. In 12.3, you can now pause and resume a test set. For manual test cases, this is achieved the same way as in previous releases. Clicking on the Save Run button will save the current test results. To resume the run, simply click on the green arrow icon next to the manual test case. Please note that the progress indicator bar will display incomplete status until all test cases have been executed. For automated test cases, clicking on the pause button will instruct OTM to pause the execution after the currently running test has completed. And similar to a manual test case, the user can resume run by either clicking on the green arrow icon next to the test case or by clicking on the launch link again. The difference between the two is clicking on the green arrow icon will only kick off that test. However, clicking on the launch button will allow the user to execute the remaining automated test cases. The progress bar indicator is another enhancement we have added to OTM in the 12.3 release. The indicator bar is displayed for each test run in the Run History section. The progress bar indicator will show green for passed, yellow for warning, red for failed, and purple for user-defined statuses. A floating tooltip will display the number of test cases not run. In this example, the floating tooltip shows that 2 out of 6 test cases have not been run, which is approximately 33%. In order to control who can set or override test results, we have created a new permission called Set Override Results. By default, the test row has this permission, and the set result link will be grayed out for users who do not have this permission. Users with this permission can click on the set result link and enter or override results for the test run. The user can select a combination of test cases from the test list and change the status. By default, the test cases which have been executed will be unchecked. This applies to both manual and automated test cases. The reason behind this is because typically if the test case execution has completed, it is unlikely that the user will update the status. Under circumstances such as when an automated test case is hung due to network issues or other unforeseen issues, the test manager or someone with override privilege can manually set the test run results. Let's go ahead and demo these features we have just talked about. Here in OTM 12.3, we have a test set called Smoke Test. Let's go ahead and create a test run for this test set. I will go ahead and call this the Windows test run. And you'll see here that after the test run has been created, there will be a link in the Run History section for that test run. We can view the different test runs by selecting them from the drop-down. And you can see here that for each test run, the test list is displayed along with the owner for the test case and the status of that test case for that particular run. In this case, none of the test cases have been executed and therefore the status is not run. Let's go ahead and run a manual test case from the test list by clicking on the green arrow icon next to the test case. And you can see here that as we complete the test step run result for each test step, the result is being saved over here to the database. This is another feature that we will talk about in later slides. OTM now has an autosave feature for manual test run execution. Here we have a blue check mark which indicates the last change to the test step status has been saved. A green check mark with a timer icon indicates the autosave for the current test step status is pending. So let's go ahead and set everything as passed and save the result. Let's go ahead and run another manual test case, but this time we will pause the run. So in order to pause the manual test case, simply click on the Save Run button. You will see here that the status is still in progress for the manual test case. To resume the run, click on the green arrow icon and continue where you have left off. Similarly, for automated test cases, you can also click on the green arrow icon to launch these test cases individually. Or if you want to run the automated test cases sequentially, you can click on the Launch button and select the automated test cases to run. By default, the manual test cases will be grayed out because they should be executed individually outside of the test set run window. Now here we can select which automated test case to run. And since none of them have been executed because they have the status of not run, I will go ahead and run it all at the same time. Note that the automated test cases on this list will be executed sequentially. So in order to pause an automated test case execution, click on the Pause button that you see in this window. And what will happen is OTM will pause the test case execution after the currently running test case has completed. Since we had 3 automated test cases on the list, it will finish executing the first one and then pause the execution of the remaining 2. Another new feature we have in 12.3 is the progress bar indicator. This progress bar indicator will be displayed for each test run. It will show green for passed, yellow for warning, red for failed, and if there were any user-defined statuses, they will be displayed in purple. Also in 12.3, when you click on a test run link under the Run History section, a pop-up window will appear and display the test run status for that particular run. The list of test cases will be displayed, and the ones that have been executed or are in progress will have a link that you can click on to view the status. Let's go ahead and click on the link for a manual test case, and you will see that for each test step, the test step result is displayed in the Result Details section. For an automated test case, when you click on the link, it will display the OpenScript result report in the Result Details section. Let's quickly jump back to the presentation. In 12.3, the Test tab right-click menu has some new additions and changes. This right-click menu is displayed when you highlight a test case from the tree view and click on the right mouse button. First and foremost is the Quick Run menu option has now been renamed to Run Test. This change was made so that the naming convention falls in line with the Run Test Set right-click menu option from the Test Execution tab. 4 new menu options were added, and they are Add Test as Child, which adds a new test case as a child of the currently selected test case, multi-edit tests, which allows user to select multiple test cases by holding down the Shift or Control key while clicking on the test cases and then doing a bulk edit. Rename test, which allows user to rename the test case without seeing the other fields in the test case. And paste as child, which pastes a copy of the test case as a child of the currently selected test case. Let's go ahead and quickly take a look at these menu options. The first menu option we will take a look at is Add Test as Child. The first thing you need to do is highlight the test folder or test case that you want to be the parent. Right-click and select Add Test as Child, and then complete the fields for the new test case. You see here that the new test case has now been added as a child of the selected test folder. The next menu option we will take a look at is Multi-Edit Tests. To do so, hold down the Shift key and then select the test cases that you want to bulk edit. Alternatively, you can hold down the Control key to have more control over the test cases that you want to edit. After the test cases are highlighted, right-click and select Multi-Edit Tests. This is actually not a new feature. This feature has existed in previous releases. However, not a lot of users were aware of it. That's why we have placed this feature in the right-click menu option. So over here, you can select the field that you want to edit in bulk and then update that field. The next menu option we will take a look at is Rename Test. This is pretty straightforward. Basically, you right-click and select Rename Test, and a pop-up will appear for you to rename the test case. The next menu option we will take a look at is Paste as Child. And this is very straightforward also. Basically, you highlight the test case that you want to copy, right-click and select Copy, or you can click on the copy icon here from the menu bar. Then you select the test case that you want to be the parent test case. So in this example, I want to paste that test case in this test folder. Right-click and then select Paste as Child. That will paste the test case that you have copied as a child of the highlighted test folder. So let's quickly jump back to the presentation. The autosave feature for manual tests is new to 12.3, and we've already talked about this earlier. This was added so users will not lose manual test results in case they accidentally click on the cancel button, or in cases where there is a network issue or when the user's session times out. A backup copy of test step data is saved along the way when the Run Manual Test window opens. Changes are saved to the database when comments or result is updated for a test step. As mentioned previously, a blue check mark indicates the last change to the test step status has been saved, and a green check mark with a timer icon indicates the autosave for the current test step status is pending. The Clone Project feature has been enhanced in 12.3 to allow the OTM administrator to clone an existing project data and structure to a new project in the database. Prior to 12.3, only the project structure was cloned, and data such as requirements, test plans, test cases, issues, reports, and dashboards were not cloned. In 12.3, the administrator can click on the Clone button and select the data they want to copy. Please note that if there is an association between two modules and one of the modules was not selected, then the association will be removed. For example, if there is a test case linked to a requirement and only test cases are being copied, then that association will be removed. After cloning is completed, a confirmation window will appear and report the number of entities being cloned. The newly cloned project will appear in the project list, and user will see the clone data in the new project. Currently, all data can be cloned by this feature, and cloning is only possible within the same database schema. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the Clone Project feature. We will go ahead and log into the OTM Administrator console. After logging in, go to the Projects tab, select the project that you want to clone, and click on the Clone button. The clone button was actually in previous releases as well. And as mentioned, prior to 12.3, when a project is cloned, only the project structure is being cloned and not the data. So the new feature in 12.3 is when you click on the clone button, you now have the opportunity to select which project data you want to copy over to the new project. And by default, all of these options are selected except for test run history. You can uncheck any of these options that you wish, or you can keep them all selected if you want to copy over all the data. So here in the project name field, you will enter the name of the new project. And then select OK. A pop-up window will appear and display how much data was copied over to the new project. So now here in the project list, you will see the new project that has been cloned, and everything should remain the same, such as the role, the permissions, all of the users, all of the fields. If we log back into OTM, we can now see the clone project and all of the data from the parent project. This concludes the Application Testing Suite 12.3 New Features and Updates training. Thank you for watching.